And we are back in the building, back with some more boxing. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, and all that good stuff. Now, guys, we are talking about Bud. Terence Bud Crawford, the newly crowned 147-pound undisputed champion. And he's been making his rounds on the talk shows, basking in the glow of his victory over Errol "The Truth" Spence Jr., putting his name up there with the greats, making history, becoming the first undisputed champion in 2 different weight classes in the 4-belt era as a male. And it's wonderful, guys. I was so glad that I was actually at the fight, history-making fight. That's something that I'll always remember and be able to tell, my kids and grandkids about. But anyway, wanted to talk about some of the things that were discussed on the show. The Breakfast Club, of course. The first thing that I wanted to talk about was him sitting in Charlamagne the God's chair when Charlamagne walked in, and making Charlamagne eat crow, of course, calling Charlamagne the God out on him picking Errol Spence Jr. to defeat him in the fight. He wanted Charlamagne the God to apologize for picking Errol. I thought that was really, really funny, guys, making him eat crow. He made a lot of people eat crow. He made a lot of you guys out there eat crow. And of course, he talked about the Jaron Boots Ennis equation. He said that fight is pretty much a lose-lose situation for him, which I agree with. Fighting Jaron Boots Ennis really does nothing for Terence Bud Crawford. I think that's an easy win for Crawford. His experience, his boxing IQ, and you have Jaron, who's a young fighter, and he hasn't been in the ring with those type of caliber of guys. Why would people want him to face a guy that high up on the totem pole and, probably, destroy his whole career before it even gets started? So I think that's, something that he shouldn't even entertain. But he said that he wants the big fights, and I get that. He's paid his dues. He's 40-0. He's made all this history. It should be nothing but big fights coming his way after what he did, a couple of weeks ago, guys. But here's another thing he talked about, something that was really interesting. He talked about, bloggers and, YouTubers and, how biased, some of the media can be when it came to him. And he was absolutely right on that. I did make a video on the channel about that. I think it was a lot of your favorite YouTubers owe Terence Bud Crawford an apology, because leading up to this fight, I wouldn't say just leading up to this fight, but for a while, it was a lot of YouTubers making a lot of, negative videos about Terence Bud Crawford, just, kind of being in the mud when it comes to Terence Bud Crawford, saying that he didn't fight anyone and just being petty. And they were giving Errol all this great press and just crapping on Terence Bud Crawford's resume and anything that he did. And I get that Errol was a more well-known fighter. I think he was more fan-friendly fighter. But here's the thing. A lot of those YouTubers were doing that just for revenue. It was more lucrative for them to, give Errol all the props and crap on Terence Bud Crawford. And that's was the narrative on YouTube, because, it's all about the dollar. It's not about telling the truth. And that's what I don't like. You have all these people calling out mainstream media, but then they turn around and do the same thing instead of getting on here and telling the truth. Now, even though I'm a fan of Errol Spence Jr., I knew, something in me told me that Errol Spence Jr. was in trouble going into this fight. I even picked a round that he was going to be stopped in. I said the 10th round, and he was stopped in the 9th. So I'm a realist, guys. I know how to separate being a fan from being objective in boxing, and a lot of these guys don't know how to do that. They're doing it for the money. They're not going to be real with you guys. And I know some of you guys see this now after what happened in the fight. It was a lot of people talking about Errol snatching out his eyeball and all these other things, and Terence Bud Crawford didn't fight anyone. And I said that, Terence Bud Crawford had a solid resume. I thought he fought a lot of different styles as opposed to Errol Spence Jr., and it paid off. Skills paid the bills. Experience pays the bills. You know, and that's what happened in the fight. You know, it was a lot of different things that played into Terence Bud Crawford being victorious over Errol Spence Jr. But yeah, that was something that he talked about. Now, something that surprised me that I wanted to talk about was the Canelo Alvarez equation. You guys know Canelo Alvarez is going into a undisputed versus undisputed fight September 30th in Las Vegas, Nevada at the T-Mobile Arena. He'll be taking on the undisputed champion at 154 pounds, Jermell Ironman Charlo. And we know that Terence Bud Crawford, that's the fight that he wants. He wants Jermell Charlo. He's been talking about Jermell Charlo for quite some time. He even called out Jermell Charlo in the ring when he was doing that damage to Errol Spence Jr. So that's a fight that he wants. He talked about, you know, I think he was asked about, you know, going up and fighting Canelo before. And, you know, he said that's something that, you know, weight classes are for a reason, I think he said. I'm paraphrasing here, and he didn't want to go up to fight that high. But he said he's willing to fight Canelo Alvarez in the interview, but at a catch weight. I think he said 158, possibly 160. Interesting fight. I don't think it'll ever happen. I don't think Canelo Alvarez would go down that far now that he fights at 168 and 175. 160 is a big stretch, I would say, for Canelo Alvarez. 158, I just can't see it happening. But I think, you know, it would be interesting to see Terence Bud Crawford, you know, at the top of the heap when it comes to the fighters. After his win over Errol Spence Jr., he's on my #1 pound for pound list. Canelo Alvarez, he's still on my pound for pound list, but you know, he's not as high as Crawford and Inoue. But I think that would be an interesting fight, and I'm glad that Terence Bud Crawford is open to that. Big fights, guys. That's what he said. He wants big fights. So you know he wants Charlo. Now, Charlo said he's willing to come back down after the Canelo Alvarez fight and fight Crawford. He won't be undisputed anymore because he's going to be stripped of the WBO come fight time. When him and Canelo Alvarez get in the ring, Tim Tszyu will be elevated to the new WBO champion. Because, you know, he never got his shot. He's been sitting on the shelf. He's been waiting for his opportunity. And he's going to be the new email champion, the new email WBO champion, like they were calling Devin the Dream Haney. So if Crawford wants to become undisputed at 154 pounds, if he defeats Errol Spence Jr. for the second fight, of course, he's probably going to have to face two fights. He's going to have to fight Tim Tszyu, and he's going to have to face Jermell Charlo. So I think, you know, that would be a nice set of fights for him at 154 pounds if all that's able to take place. Now, as far as the Canelo Alvarez fight goes, I just can't see it happening. I can't see Canelo coming down that far. But I guess you never can say no in boxing, especially when you're talking about huge money. So we'll just let this all play out and see what happens. But Terence Bud Crawford, not ducking the smoke from these big name fighters, winning the big fights, and wanted to take his legacy even further. And we're going to see what happens, guys. But you guys tell me what you think about Jermell Charlo wanting smoke with not only Terence Bud Crawford, guys, wanting smoke with Jermell Charlo and Canelo Alvarez. You guys let me know how you feel about that in the comment section. It's the CMB. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. And I'm out. Peace.